Good morning, CLC. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this service. We are so happy to welcome you into your week, so thank you for letting us do so. Yeah, we're just popping all over. I don't know if you hear it on Facebook, but we hear it in the room where we kind of pop, especially Reverend Lisa. She's just so magnetic. It's just amazing. So yeah, we have that going on. And now we come to our inner healing experience. I invite everyone in this moment just to take a few deep breaths, just to cleanse your body. Allow your spirit this moment to just relax and breathe in the gorgeousness of the day. And allow your mind, just for this moment, to be here, now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words. I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. In visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass, in seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life.
Good morning. I think my channel's muted or something. Are we having one of those mornings? You know, you say, yeah, that's better. What else could happen? Or you say, what else could happen?
Right.
It's all a matter of attitude. Now, back in just before Christmas, I made you a gift suggestion for one another, because I'd seen this thing online that looked about yay big and really cool, and then I got one from Sean, and it's this big. This is to tell you, don't trust the internet, but it's still really cool. It's still really awesome. You hear that? Let's try that again. Right into the microphone now. This is a screaming goat. And I recommend this as a stress relief tool. It'll scream so you don't have to. You put it on your desk and, you know, by the phone. Actually, we don't do that anymore, by the phone. You have the phone in your, okay, I'm old school. The science of mind, the basics of the science of mind. We continue on today in week 5 of 9, because we've got 4 coming up in February. And as Danielle mentioned, we're referring to, from time to time, a little book called 10 Ideas That Make a Difference by Ernest Holmes, and Sarah's leading a book study on that through March 2nd. Okay, today is about stress. Today is about love. Today is about prosperity. Today is about the Lunar New Year, which begins on Tuesday. There are many things of a commemorative nature happening this week. And that Lunar New Year, observed by over 2 billion people, is the beginning of a time that this year is represented by the water tiger. The water tiger. The tiger, not the metal tiger, the wood tiger, but the water tiger. The water tiger, the water balances out the tiger energy. The tiger energy is what? Aggressive, assertive, goal-oriented, somewhat obsessed, fixated on results. The water is a calming and a soothing kind of energy. So if that appeals to you, you can opt into the thing and say, well, it's my year too. We're not taking it over. We're not saying it's something we observe necessarily all the time. in our lives. We say there's this energy in the world that 2 billion people are grooving on right now, and I choose to be among them in consciousness. It's more energy for you. It's more power for you. It's a beautiful and wonderful thing. Here's the deal about the science of mind. There's one power, there's one law, there's one presence, and it's everywhere, and it's in everyone. And that's not the issue, and it's never been the issue. This is what I've heard myself saying for the last 5 weeks, actually the last many years, is the problem has never been that the source of us has withdrawn from us, is displeased with us, has to be bargained with, has to be coaxed into some kind of response. No, that's not the issue. The issue is in personal consciousness. As I sat there listening to Danielle give the announcements, and she will tell you these were partial announcements because there's an awful lot going on, that we'd be here pages and pages of stuff. What occurred to me is we are a working center. We are a working center. We don't just roll out the room on Sundays and stand here and say a few things and then go away. No. 24/7, there's something going on in this center. The practitioners are involved in things. The ministers are involved in things. Volunteers that we count on are involved in things like serving food in that high school parking lot. We are a working center. Well, this is a working teaching. It's only fitting this should be a working center because this is a working teaching. And you know what? You got to work it. You got to work it. Those of you in 12-step programs will be familiar with the expression, it works if you work it. Or it works when you work it, if you want to be more affirmative about it. Well, this is a working teaching. Spirit is everywhere and everything, and that's not the problem. If there is a problem, if there is a hesitation, it's in that we don't recognize this, and we don't act like it, and we don't live up to it. And that's why we have as centers to coach each other into doing that, but particularly to coach ourselves into doing it, to look within ourselves and see what we could do better, what we could do in a more kindly way, in a more loving way, in a more accepting way, in a more trusting way. And that brings us to today's talk, which has to do with the fullness of thought, expressing the fullness of thought in your life. When I think of thinking, I think of and have traditionally the stuff in my head, the thoughts that go through my head. And some thoughts I like and some thoughts I don't like. But what I've tended to do, and most of us do, is I follow where they lead. Like a worry. A worry is a good example. You know, worry comes up and it says, now if this happens, it's going to lead to this. And you don't want that, so you have to. And so I start following it along, you know, and pretty soon there's a metabolic response if I follow it far enough. Pretty soon my heart's beating a little faster, my palms are a little sweatier, my temples are a little more constricted, you know. And I think, well, the thought took me there, so I blame the thought, you know. It's like you don't like your weight, blame the scales. So I blame the thought, I blame the weight of thought on me that has taken me to this place. But what I did unknowingly along the way was I attached emotion to the train of thought. I didn't have to do that, but I did it. But I didn't have to do it. Then other times, somebody will come and say, have you heard the wonderful news about such and such? And they're all excited. But I don't get excited because I don't have the same experience of the thing. And I'm maybe still in some pain. Maybe I'm still in some grief. Maybe I'm still in some worry. And so they're all jumping up and down about this wonderful new reality that's coming over the horizon, and I just can't get behind it. Oh, I'll think about it with them for a while. I'll think about it with them as long as they're standing there in front of me. Once they're gone, then it kind of trails off. But I won't give it the force of feeling. Why not? Because my feeling is somewhere else. Look, it's kind of like this. This building with which we're having some interesting static electricity issues today, this building has electrical energy, much electrical energy in it. It's got a lot of stuff plugged in. We run a lot of juice through this building for a couple hours a week right now. Used to be more, will be more. Got lights on in here. We got heat on in here. We got a whole soundboard in there that's all lit up. All of these microphones and stuff. We come in here, we flip the switch, it all comes on, it's loud, it's bright, off we go. What if we came in here and the sound was dim and the lights were dim and everything was kind of low and we wanted to know what's going on? Well, Sean would go, he'd look in here at the circuits and he'd say, well, all the circuits are working, and go around. And you come to find out outside here where the AC units are, somebody set up 15 washers and dryers and attached them all to the circuitry of this building. And they're churning away. And those washers are washing nothing. It's just water going, and the dryer's just going around with nothing. All this power being drained off. What a waste. What a waste. Plus it's inhibiting what we're trying to do in here. So what would we do? We'd go out and we'd disconnect everything, and all of a sudden we'd be back to full strength. I bring this up because this is how often we process our emotions. We're still washing yesterday's laundry out back. We're still churning away on stuff that's over and done with, and that's where the feeling goes. Now, there's something to be said for that, because you've got to feel your feelings, and you've got to do grief, or grief will do you, and you've heard all of these things, all right? But there's also something to be said for when you're doing your spiritual work. Gather together the energies that surround you and direct them in a certain way. Direct them in a certain way, these energies. Get excited about what you want. If you're not excited about what you want, the universe cannot be excited about it for you. It just can't. You've heard the old expression, God can only do for you what God can do through you. Well, this is what it means. God doing something through you is you get excited about the thing, you get energized about the thing, no matter what. Often people under duress are good at this because of the duress. It drives them in the direction of, well, you've told me I can't do this thing. You've told me I'm not allowed to do this thing, so by God, I'm going to do this thing, right? And they shepherd all their feeling into it, and off they go. Very often when we're not under duress, it's easier to let all the feeling just kind of go miscellaneous. Well, I'll get to it one of these days when things are better, when things are... Oh, God, I hear this. People are like, let's say, how can I be optimistic with the terrible things in the news today? Okay? Well, first of all, when have the things in the news not been terrible? And I'm not being facetious with that. In my lifetime, there's always been something. There's always been something, and it's always been followed by something else. I was reading just the other day, I don't remember if it was yesterday or when the exact date was, the 35th anniversary of the Challenger explosion. That was a day I remember. It was right at the start of this journey called Creative Life. I was living the other side of town. We were meeting at a motel. I was driving up here on Wednesdays and Sundays. This little group of us meeting at the Comfort Inn down there on Greens Road, I-45. And they were playing Samuel Butler's Elegy on the radio. It was the most mournful piece of music you've ever heard in your life. And I mean, there was just such grief in the air, and just how could this happen, and how could this happen? And of course it happened close to home because it's these flyers were from here, everything was kind of directed from here, and it was this heavy, heavy feeling in the air. But the next news event that I recall was not right up against it, but the next news event I recall that was brought to Creative Life, it was of a celebratory nature, was when the Berlin Wall came down, which was, I think, the following year or 8 months or something like that. You can look it up. But when have things not been daunting in the news? And this is why they call it news. Because if somebody gets up and they have a wonderful day and they create some things and they make some friends and they go to bed happy and all the rest of this, it's not news. It's not considered news. It's considered normalcy. Now, maybe there's something messed up about that way of doing business, and that's another conversation, And so there are good news channels out there now and good news websites and so forth putting out the news. But you're always going to be faced with the news because we are going to remain spiritual beings having a human experience until we stop having the human experience. And in the human experience, we get some things wrong. We step on each other's feelings. We feel turmoil, upset, defensiveness, weirdness, anxiety, and on and on. So there comes a point when you have to say, no matter what, I'm going to do what I know to do. And I know to do it not because Ernest Holmes said to do it and because he heard that from Christian D. Larson or, it's out of the sacred scriptures of the world. I'm not doing it because it's there. I'm doing it because every time I do it, my life works better. And every time I don't do it, my life does not work better. It doesn't necessarily slide all the way downhill, but it sort of just goes into neutral. And what is this thing that I'm trying to do? Manage the thought-feeling connection. Thought plus feeling equals belief. And you've heard it said time and again that it's done to you as you believe. Thought plus feeling. We have been heavier in, particularly the Western world, on the side of thought. You were trained to think, I was trained to think, we were trained to add up columns of numbers and learn other languages and do all of this kind of stuff, which was good training for the mind. We were not taught how to feel. We were not taught how to feel. We were not taught how to embrace our feelings and wrap them around thought and get excited about what we want to do to the extent that what we want to do wants to be done by us. When you have a creative idea occur to you, it is your creative idea. Often we say, well, if I don't seize onto it, then somebody else will. That's not the point. It came to you. It knocked on your door. Play with it. Do a thing. I was reading about, and you can look this up, reading and then listening, a man named Cremaine Booker. Cremaine Booker is called the Cello Guy. Do you like cello? That's cello with a C, not jello. The cello guy. I'm pausing now because our tech team is searching frantically through the cello guy. He says one of the most beautiful pieces of cello music that he knows is Gabriel Fauré's Pavane for 12 cellos. So you know what he did? He recorded it all himself. He played all 12 parts. He laid all 12 parts down in perfect, absolutely perfect timing, where they all blended together. And why did he do this? Did he do this to monetize this? Did he do this? He's already famous. And he performs with a number of different groups and individuals as a musician. Why did he do this? Because it occurred to him to do it. It occurred to him to do it. He didn't get a Guinness World Record for it. Okay? I read about it. It made some news and all of this, but I'm telling you, the man's joy in doing this was in doing it and doing it perfectly and not releasing it until it was, I don't know if he did it all in one take, but it wasn't auto-tuned, okay? It wasn't manipulated. It was done in real time, and each of these tracks overlaid with the 11 others. Astonishing stuff. It occurs to him. He went beyond. He pushed himself. He pushed himself in a good way. He pushed himself up the hill, you know? He didn't have to do this. You get that? We don't have to do any of this. We don't have to be the star in our own lives. But if it occurs to us that we could do more, we won't be satisfied till we try. And I promise you that where this man went in consciousness, whatever his background or training or religious affiliation, beside the point, where he went in consciousness was to the place of this has been accomplished. And then he started from there. He started, in fact, with the end in mind. We start with the end in mind. How would it be? How would it be if it could be any way at all? How would it be if it could be any way at all? And we'll say, well, how exactly is this going to happen? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Not a soul knows. It's a mystery. It's a certainty that it does happen, and it's a mystery how it happens. It's a mystery how it happens. You never know where your good is coming from. There's a story I tell a lot about William Hornaday, one of our great ministers and teachers, and the person that came to him and needed something to happen and said it has to happen in such and such a way. And Dr. Bill said to him, would it be all right with you if it happened some other way? And the client argued with him. Well, it has to happen this way, obviously, logically. It has to happen this way. He said, would it be all right with you if it happened some other way? But it has to happen this way. Back and forth they went. The sun went up, the sun came, the day turned to night, and there's still, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes. They battled back and forth on this, and finally the client, the congregant, gave in. Would it be all right with you? Okay, be all right. Boom. Key to demonstration. Is it all right with you? Is it all right with you? If it comes about some other way? Is it all right with you if your dreams come true? Is it all right with you if you have good in your life that you don't have to worry over? How long is it going to be here? When might I lose it? How will I replace it? Is it all right with you? Is it all right with you to relax into your life? Relax into your life. And feelings will come up around an idea the way they did when you were a kid. Oh, we could go on and on about that, You're going to Disney World in the morning. You're going to Disney World in the morning, okay? Child, grown up. Child going to Disney World in the morning. Wow. Can't sleep, wide awake, okay? Running on fumes, running on sheer energy. I want to do it all. I want to take it all in. I have boundless energy to do all of this, and I will imprint it in memory and never forget it. That's the child, adult, going to Disney World in the morning. How much is this going to cost? How tired will I get by when? Which shoes do I need to wear? Have you seen these commercials on TV? I think it's Geico or something about thinking like your parents, talking like your parents. Yes. I love that. They go to the football game and they're like, well, this parking lot, they must, this is where they make their money, and this is are we still going to leave about the third quarter? And the guy says to him, can we go to the game before we talk about leaving? Yeah. But this is what we often do as grown-ups, is we compensate and we hedge and we this and we, and then we wonder, where did all the excitement go? And all of a sudden a bunch of children run by, shrieking and happy, like children are, and we're like, God, I wish I had that energy. I wish I had that kind of thing, but I don't, because I'm old now. Because we make all these stories up, and we've done this to ourselves. We just get, wow. I read another story about another musician. I don't have her name handy. You can look it up, but she's 95 years old. 95 years old, a pianist from Russia, I think, who her father stood over her, made music miserable for her when she was a kid. She had a natural gift, and he stood over her, and he wouldn't let her play. He wouldn't let her have any kind of recreation. She practiced. She went to school, and she practiced piano 9 hours a day on top of school. Can you imagine that? Well, guess what? She got really good. And then she got really sick of it. And she walked away from it for years. And she had to go through a whole cycle of thought to come back to it, to realize I do love music. I don't love how my father loved music. I don't love how my father treated me. And these are two separate issues, but I do love music. And at the age of 95, she just released an album of, I think, Chopin, which is complicated, as Jeffrey can tell you. All of it is, but at 95, and I mean, it's that good. And so what did she do? She dug down deep, found something in herself, a new way of allying thought with feeling. So, bottom line to all of this, I was thinking, there's a word, when I read the news, and ironically, there are articles in the news that tell you should read less news. Have you seen these? On social media, it says, avoid social media. All kinds of people out there perform and do wonderful things and feel great about it until they read social media. And then they just kind of, Well, in reading the news, there's a word that the copywriters can't seem to do without. And I'm ready to do that. And that word is grapple. Have you read Grapple? Read the various newspapers and so on, and you'll see we're grappling with COVID. We're grappling with inflation. Okay? We're grappling with the weather in New England today. Have a good thought there. Okay? And we're grappling with each other. Politically, economically, and on and on. There's all this grappling going on. You look up grapple, and it's a wrestling term. And it means what it sounds like it means. It's, you know. Grappling solves nothing. It gets you wrestling points. That's all, you know. Conquering things gets you nothing. Embracing the possibility of unconditional love gets you everything. How would the world look if there weren't a pandemic in it? How would the world look if there were no disease at all? How would the world look? How would the world look? You say, well, that's not realistic. Yes, but you want it to be. And that's the thing, is follow that thought out. I'm not saying you have to stand on the street corner and announce this to people. I'm saying in your own heart, go to the place, how would it be? How would it be if you had energy? How would it be if you had motivation? How would it be if you had excitement? How would it be if you were surrounded by unconditional truth-telling love? How would it be if you were surrounded by the most amazing set of godlings the world has ever known? Would that be all right with you? Would that be all right with you? And if it's all right with you, then you have the energy and the will and also the tools to confront the world's problems. We're always reminding each other how real the world's problems are. Let's not delude ourselves. There are real problems in this world. Yes, okay, well, now the spiritual remedy is, once having done that, now what do we do? How would it be if we all got along famously? How would it be? And would it be all right with you? And finally this, any part of you that's holding out on that it wouldn't be all right with because you'd be afraid that the rug might be pulled out from under you at any minute. What if I trusted people and loved everybody and the whole earth broke out in song, and I really went with that, and then the rug was pulled out from under me, and I went boom, you know? Well, any part of you that's still in that fear and that trepidation, hesitation about things, run to it, and say, tell me about when you were disappointed. Tell me about when you were disillusioned, when you were let down. Tell me about this. And it'll be the little kid in you that'll come and do that and say, well, there was a time when such and such happened, you know, and ever since I've not been able to trust this life. And you pick it up with that child energy in you from there, and you move forward, and you make, there's a strategy for this. Go into next week, but where you dialogue. And you make promises, and you keep them to this child within, and all of a sudden it becomes possible. So this is the science of mind. It's not the easiest thing, but it's totally worth it. It's totally worth it what we do here. It's totally worth it. You can't just come in here on a Sunday and I bestow some blessing on you and you go off and you're good for another week. No, as soon as you're out these doors, there's an opportunity to go east or west with it, really, you know. Go one way or another. Trust your thinking, trust life, trust the power that made you. And you can't go wrong. Okay? So more on this next week, more on it in all our discussion groups, the movie discussion coming up, the book studies, all of the different opportunities that we offer. And bear in mind this too, that unrelated to the talk or anything else, but I was with a group online this week, and they come from all over the place, but they have all been window shopping in different spiritual centers since everybody went online. This is an awesome thing to do. Creative life, you know, we have a way of putting this across, but check out all the other CSL and Unity and affiliated New Thought Network centers, and anywhere you want to. I'm not going to tell you where not to go. And look and see what's there and who's saying what and who's teaching what, and you'll find amazing things. Also music, you know, also poetry, also it's out there. There's a positive thread of information running through the media, running through the internet and so on. If you look for it, it's there, and it will help feed you and grow you. Okay? Now, let's know together. There's one life, one power, one presence, just one. And that's all there needs to be, is this one. There is none beside it, none before it, none behind it, just this one. And in this one, every one of us, it is in every one of us to be wise. It is in every one of us to be free. It is in every one of us, because it was implanted there before time began. We are of the one. We have the power to make our dreams come true, to become excited about our own possibilities and see them enacted in form. We have the power. We are of the power. So I affirm and know for each one of us here that in this week to come and in this new year that's unfolding, the lunar new year, the solar new year, this new year ahead of us, filled with promise, finds us strengthened, convinced, eager to feel our way through our lives and to create bridges, relationships, conversations, music, art, writing. Inventions, discoveries, and new applications for things that benefit all of us together. In the brightness of this new day, I call forth a new dawn in the life of each of us. For this knowing and the way that it manifests in form, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
So it is. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming back. We love to see your happy, smiling faces again. And also, if you're online and you're new with us, please let us know in chats, or you can send us a private message, or you can email us at info@creativelife.org so that we can wish you well and say hi. And now, I invite everyone to say with me, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
And we think that the pianist that Reverend Jesse was discussing, and yes, oh my God, it's a Russian last name, so please forgive me. Her name is Ruth Slenczynska. She is 97, and she is the last living pupil of Rachmaninoff. And I hope I said that one right. So, but yeah, she just released an album on the 18th. So if you want to look her up, or you can go back in the chat, because then there'll be a hot link there. And nope, not touching that. Yes, when I touch metal during days like this, I do see sparks. Are they divine sparks? Absolutely. Do they hurt sometimes? Oh yeah. But isn't that the way it goes? Sometimes you get the divine spark, sometimes you get the divine 2x4. So, joyful anticipation. I've been doing 365 Ernest for almost 2 years now. The first one I did was the 365 Science of Mind, and I'm currently in the 365 Days of Richer Living. And he uses that term a lot, joyful anticipation. And you read it and you go, how do I do that? How do I do that? Well, if anybody's ever dealt with yarn, you know how when you start a project with yarn, it gets everywhere? Especially if you have helpful other energies like cats. How do I do that? Well, if you want to get started, you gather all that yarn up together, to whatever it was they were doing beforehand. Because after you have done that, Spirit's got it. And once it's in Spirit's hands, nothing will stop it. So with joyful anticipation, I invite you to know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. That life is my life now. That presence is in me. That power flows through me. I am a channel of that love. And as I know this about myself, so too do I know it about each and every one of you. And I invite us into the joyful anticipation of the divine yes. For whatever it is that we set our minds to, whatever we point our energies at, I know the divine yes. I resonate with the divine yes. And I know that what it is that I need to accomplish, what you need to accomplish, comes easily into our hands, easily into our field of awareness. Be it a gentle tug at our coat sleeve or that divine 2x4 that says, here I am, this is the way to go. And I do this with all gratitude, knowing that the answer is always yes. And that the answer is always love. There is no question that can be asked that the answer is not love. And I know this with gratitude. So I am grateful for this teaching. I am grateful for this place. I am grateful for these people. I am grateful for the practitioners, the ministers, the people watching online, the people sitting in the room, the musicians, the technology that makes this possible. I am grateful for it all because I understand that gratitude is another word for love, and there is nothing more powerful than love in this world. And I release my word into that joyful anticipation, knowing it is done even as I speak these words, and so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use
And I
it.
love it.
And I love
So
it.
it is.
And so it is.
All right.
Okay, I think you need to stretch the other arm out.
Yeah.
I know. I'm like, tippy toes.
I said, he's going to go all the way up. I knew it.